Let me ask the
Sure.
first question. It's a two-parter.
Yeah.
The town hall meetings. I've been sending out YouTube videos almost daily to this group. There's been a lot of public reaction, a lot of Congress people getting their ears pinned back. Do you think any of that's going to change votes?
Yes, I do. And let me tell you why. Some of my Democratic friends on the other side, and some of my Republican friends, who get weak-kneed, sometimes, they have gotten an earful when they've gone back home. I have, and this is even before August. I had some of them tell me they couldn't go out of their houses. This is an interesting phenomenon, John, because I will tell you, I would challenge any member of Congress to suggest that they've had more constituent outreach than we have on any issue. On health care alone, we've had over 350,000 personal contacts where either I've talked to someone on the phone or had a letter from them, whatever that we had. Overwhelmingly, though, this is different. I have never had a situation where I could be at and these aren't fancy, Cracker Barrel, Applebee's, just eating a meal. And people are lining up, not to say their name so that you'll do something for them. They just want to say thank you. Thank you for standing up for the principles that we believe in and what's. I've never seen that in my career, where we have it. So I think that people on both sides of the aisle know this is real, know this is powerful. I think it's having a huge impact.
The second part is, given the president's falling poll numbers, given the fact that the health care bill itself is experiencing falling poll numbers, do you think the Senate would have the audacity to try to pass this under reconciliation?
One of the things, John, that I have not understood at this particular point with this group is for all of the accolades they got in the campaign. I don't know that they've been as politically smart as I thought they would have been when they came in office. It is never one issue. It is a layering of issues that begin to take hold of people. And here's what I'm hearing underneath the frustrations of the American people. They're saying this, and they're not articulating it, but this is what they're thinking. They're saying if you are going to have a policy to close Guantanamo Bay and release some of the worst terrorists in the world, if you are going to put our country in literally trillions of dollars of debt, if you're going to take over what was once the greatest car manufacturing industry in the world, if you're going to try to take over the banking industry, and if you're going to try to take over the healthcare industry, at least you ought to have a plan. And you shouldn't do it as you go along. And I think that layering is starting to get pretty strong now. And I think if they try to ram something down somebody's throat in the Senate with reconciliation, I think all hell's going to break loose, not just with the American people, but within the Senate itself. And it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get other things done down there. So I think they'll talk that fight. I'm not sure they want to go down that suicidal stretch and do it. But I tell you, this group has done some things. I mean, if I'd have been calling their shots, first of all, I'd have called them a totally different perspective. But had I been calling it, I would have been much more incremental than they were. And we would have had a very difficult time stopping them. So they may do something that's politically foolish. And one other thing on that, John, one of their arguments is that if they ram it down people's throats, that they'll forget it by next year when the elections come. I don't think that's true. So, and I think they're starting to realize it.
We're going to take some questions now for either Donna or Congressman Forbes.
Yeah. Donna, why don't you
questions, not statements.
You make me look better.
Jim Heinrich.
Congressman, I want to congratulate you, among other things, for having articulated the 4 or 5 reforms that Republicans are apparently backing. Now, what I want to know is, why is it that we're not hearing any Republican leader doing this exactly what you just did in about 10 minutes? I mean, those are great ideas, but why is it that a bunch of you don't designate somebody as your spokesman, same in the Senate, and go out there and constantly go on television every chance you get, particularly when the media is on the other side, and the Democratic leadership won't allow your amendments to be considered?
Excellent point. Back, and I forgot what year. I don't know if it was 96, 98. Some of you might know. Newt Gingrich gave a great speech to the American Press Corps. You guys probably remember that. Afterwards, they came back and they were on television, and one of the pundits said, had he given that speech before the election, the Republicans would have probably picked up seats instead of lost seats. And whoever they were talking to quickly came back and said, he not only gave that speech, he gave that speech on this 192 times, and nobody ever covered it. We have a very difficult time because I don't have to tell you, MSNBC and CNN are not going to cover me, given a floor speech. We had one floor speech, just one, 4 minutes, 30 seconds, responding to the president's statement that we were not a Judeo-Christian nation. No network would cover it, but we had 2.8 million hits on YouTube with it. So the American people are interested, but oftentimes you're not hearing the networks carry. The second thing is, it's just been my experience that sometimes our leadership plays to not lose instead of playing to win. I felt all along when we were in the majority, we would have been far better off to lose some of our votes than we were to compromise away and win them. And that's on a pragmatic point of view, not just a philosophical point of view. Because the problem was, sometimes we win, American people would never know we won. And sometimes I think it's very important that we stop this trying to just not lose or fumble or stumble. I listen to some of the people on TV, and at the end I'm scratching my head and saying, what did they say? And really some of these principles that I'm having, I'll tell you, the reception we get at even Democratic meetings, it's 90%. I mean, the people are nodding their heads. I had one healthcare forum, I had a lady that stood up. She started out, she was irate. She said, I'm on the other side. And I said, well, I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me. And she went through and listed many of the same principles that we just talked about. I said, what makes you think you're on the other side? I said, does this bill get you there? And she said, I don't think so. And then I listed the bills that I had co-sponsored that did everything she wanted to say, and I said, that's the way we get there. And she sat down, she said, you're right. And so, but we're not articulating that always. And when we do, sometimes we don't get it carried and across the country.
Steve?
Do you think tomorrow night if the president sugarcoats public option into something like co-ops or something like that, that sugarcoating, even though it's the same thing, is going to be enough PR-wise to get these hesitant Democrats to come over and pass it?
Steve, I think that many of these Democrats now have had an earful at home. They understand that it's not sugarcoating to them they have to do. It's sugarcoating to the people back home. And I don't think the people back home are going to buy into that. Because they know this. They know that this is a president and this is an administration that wants this and is going to try to get this. It's a matter of how they get it and when they get it, but they're going to push it down their throats. I think they've waited too long, at this particular point in time to do it. But I will come back to what I said at the beginning. I've been incredibly disappointed. I have very little respect. I like some of them, but these so-called blue dogs, you can't count on them. And what scares me most, it's not just on health care, it's on national defense. For the first time ever, we've had a budget that's driven our defense posture, not our defense posture driving our budget. And I never thought I'd see some of the guys on the Blue Dog Coalition that would stand for that. But Pelosi controls them by these chairmanships and other stuff that they have. So I think now it's a question of whether or not they've had enough reality check over the summer to say their jobs are on the line, which I think they are.